Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Matt Johnner. He's the president and co-founder at BankLabs. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. When we kind of first connected and I checked out kind of what you guys are doing at BankLabs, I thought it was actually really, really interesting. And I love kind of people that are bringing technology into kind of a non-traditional industry, or it hasn't really been known for being technically innovative, right? But maybe before we kind of get into BankLabs and everything you're doing there, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Sounds great. I like to joke that it all started when I was 7, growing up in the Adirondacks. I'm teasing. It won't be that long of a story. No, we grew up in the Adirondacks. I'm the last of 7. Awesome family. We still go back every summer to Joe Indian.
Okay.
It's a small lake in between Lake Placid and Montreal.
Okay.
And just a really great place to grow up. And go pick blueberries in the summer, make your own blueberry pancakes, and fishing and skipping rocks, and a really great place to grow up. But as you might gather, quite cold, not a ton of economic opportunity, and not a ton of pretty girls. So when my brother-in-law suggested I go check out Texas A&M University, I jumped on a plane and fell in love with it, and that's where I went to school.
Interesting. So what did you take at Texas A&M?
Another fun part of the story, I guess. So I was pre-law, management and political science, and brother-in-law decided that was not a choice he was also very supportive of, so he sent me to a friend's law firm in Houston for a little bit of an internship, which turned out not to be a fun experience. So so I started looking when I was at the end of my junior year. Saw that a company called Baroid, which is now a division of Halliburton, an oil and gas services firm, that they were looking for junior engineers to go live and work overseas under a senior engineer and learn the ropes, hopefully stay in those countries like Yemen and the Emirates and Nigeria and Jakarta and Bogota, Colombia, and then go that route. So I did. I went over and started based out of Dubai, the UAE, spent a lot of time in Yemen, and then went to for round 2 to Nigeria, after which they wanted me to go to Laredo on the Texas-Mexican border, which didn't seem quite as fun, didn't have the same economic opportunity, no hazard bonus, wasn't as sexy. So I resigned, and that's kind of where part 2 of my life came in. I went to work for Ross Perot at Perot Systems in Dallas, Texas. So that's how I got here in 1994.
Okay, very cool. So walk me through kind of, because you've done a bunch of things before BankLabs. So do you maybe want to kind of quickly walk me and the listener through kind of the different roles you had and then kind of up right until you kind of decided to co-found BankLabs?
Yeah, absolutely. And appreciate you asking. Really, pretty much my entire life has been entrepreneurism, whether it be starting my own company or buying into companies that were small, or what we're doing now. And really where I found that I am good is scaling companies. So taking something that already has a defined product idea, may not have exactly the right product market fit yet, but I can, and I enjoy spinning through lots of different scenarios, testing the market. I enjoy personally selling to see what resonates, kind of like a little bat flying around a cave. You're pinging for resonance in the market. And so have done really a lot of that, whether it was early number portability sales at Perot Systems, where we and Lockheed split the North American number portability opportunity, where that allowed individuals to carry your phone number from one telecom provider to another. That was in the middle to late 90s. Whether it have been working at a small startup doing what was then the precursor to soft switches, bridging the voice over IP networks and public switch telephone networks, being acquired by a company called Telecom Technologies, a wonderful husband-wife duo, Hamid and Anusha Ansari. Anusha was, I think, formerly the first non-governmental woman in space. She was involved with the X Prize. Yeah, very brilliant woman. And so Telecom Technologies really took that early vision of a soft switch and made it their own, and did very, very well selling to Sonus Networks, which still exists. Started my own company in '99. Not the best timing in the world. We did services-based supply chain. I like to say got hit by a ball. So dazed and confused. From there, I was contacted by the former head of Perot Systems, great gentleman named Joe Boyd. He worked for Morton Meyerson. Morton Meyerson was Ross Perot's yin to yang, I guess, and forming and growing Electronic Data Systems, which sold to GM. And I worked around them, not directly for, but around them at Perot Systems when he was chairman and CEO of Perot Systems. So went to work for his family office called 2M, helping him with an investment he made in India. Spent a lot of time outside New Delhi in a city called Gurgaon, and created a healthcare business process outsourcing company. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a number of things. Went to a company called ACS, got into the education space, education technology, bought into a small financial aid processing company, and wonderful time with my partners there. Founder Jimmy Addison was just amazing, and we grew that company from $9 million to $33 million, and went and helped a sister company, Collegiate Admission and Retention Solutions, another education technology company owned by the same majority owner family out of Alabama, a great gentleman named Ken Horn, and was building that up. So that kind of takes me pretty current. I left CARS, Collegiate Admission and Retention Solutions, and went back to 2M. So my third stint with Mr. Meyerson, who's amazing, and went and ran sourced and managed technology investments with a couple other folks there. So that at that point, my partner, who's also my father-in-law, Mike Montgomery, just brilliant product guy in banking and bank technology, he had formed Radius Group, our holding company, in 2010, which I subsequently invested in and joined the board of. And that led to us forming Bank Labs in January of 2016. And that was, I'm sure, a very rambling, take me current type scenario.
No, that's good, man. Before we kind of get into Bank Labs, though, I'm curious, how did you meet your co-founder? I always love those stories.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if he had much of a choice, because it's my father-in-law as well, and so so he's part banker. He was born into a banking family. His grandfather was on the Federal Reserve out of Idaho. His father started a bank in Idaho, which was acquired by KeyCorp, a bank holding company, and he is on a board of what is now one of the largest CDFI banks in the country, Community Development Financial Institutions, which are meant to help underrepresented areas. And so the other half of them was a progressively more responsible bank technologist, was an early engineer of a company called Systematics, which was the dominant core provider of the day in 70s, 80s, and 90s, acquired by Altel, became renamed Altel Information Services, where he rose through there to be EVP of Altel and division president and head of their healthcare group. And when Altel sold to Verizon, Altel Information Services was spun out to IS Global, which is now the world's largest financial technology company. So he has a great background in banking and bank technology.
Sure. No, I think that's actually really cool. So what exactly is Bank Labs, and why did you guys decide to create it?
Right. So Bank Labs, we create mobile technology products for community banks, which we define as less a size, more of a way of doing business in market relationship-based banking.
Okay.
And so we want to level the playing field for community banks to have wonderful in-market relationship-based bankers
Okay.
but have not necessarily had the same level of technology that some of the new fintech companies do or some of the larger multinational banks. So our mission really is to help community banks scale with quality and leverage that in-market relationship-based banking by giving them mobile and marketplace technologies as well.
Okay, no, that's very cool. So for people that maybe are a little bit unclear, like you kind of said, it's a little bit of an attitude kind of thing towards the space, but how do you guys kind of define community banks?
Right. So community banks in our world are truly banks that leverage in-market relationships,
okay,
and have real feet on the street, that know the communities they operate in, are trusted advisors to their clients. Let's say it's a manufacturing shop or a restaurant chain or whatever it may be, and they have that relationship with the ownership, so that you can make better decisions on the ground. You can make more timely decisions, and they can be more relevant to that business than sometimes a pure online transaction or a distant transaction. And so, our products, as an example, are construction loan automation is one. It's a product called Construct.
okay,
So any lender, doesn't have to be a community bank, could be a credit union, another financial institution. So any lender that does construction, whether it be builder finance, where you have a home building firm building 10, 50, 100, 200 houses a year, whether it's a commercial developer building a new retail center or a warehouse or a motel, or whether it's a mortgage operation that is selling custom homes that you or I would build,
sure,
and take a construction loan out. So we automate that with what we call a mobile first, banker first approach.
okay,
So we design for the banker, not the bank. The bank benefits, of course, through real-time cloud-based technology, but we want it to be a really great connected experience for the user, the banker, as well as their customers, builders, and borrowers. And so it's banker first, it's mobile first, and that it's meant to be used out in the field. Of course, it can be used via laptop and all that for the power users, the loan administrators, and the bank, but we want a lot of mobility and a lot of banker first design. So it automates all that construction lending, text messages when an inspection is done to the borrower, speeds up money movement, reduces admin costs, reduces risk, which is a big deal in banks through
sure,
real-time decision making, that type of thing.
No, that's actually really cool. So kind of walk me through a bit more of the process. So like a bank comes to you guys and says, I'm interested in this construction loan automation product that you guys have. How do you guys work with that bank to actually implement your product inside their institution?
Right. So we target banks and or credit unions that do a meaningful amount of construction lending, which is not so much, it's more of a percentage of their assets. So if you're a $200 million bank, but you do $30 million of construction lending, that's a lot for a bank your size.
Sure.
So we really try to build a list of banks that do a fair amount of construction lending for their size. And then we reach out to them. We set demos, typically an hour-long demo, 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
And then we move them into a free trial. So we offer a 30-day free trial. And okay.
Sorry?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh yeah. So we, I think I lost you there for a sec. We have a demo, then we move to a free trial.
Okay.
And then they convert to a paying state.
Got you. So how do you guys find which banks to kind of reach out to that are playing in that space? Because I think a lot of people struggle with kind of finding their target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So we look for banks that we like to say need or want change.
Okay.
This is, we are not yet perfected this, so we certainly don't have a crystal ball, but we look for banks that show indications of needing or want change. So often that is they're in a hot growth market. So with regard to construction loan automation, they're in a hot geographic area. They may be a bank that's acquiring other banks. They may be a bank where others in their market are being acquired and they feel like they need to have a competitive differentiator. They may be a bank that's on one of the regulator lists that shows that they have a lot of commercial real estate lending and therefore are under more scrutiny than others, therefore having modern mobile tools to replace the current spreadsheets that are used in paper. Those
Sure.
are desirable characteristics typically. Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense, right? And then how do you guys kind of charge for this? Is it kind of user base? Is it per banker, or how does that fee structure kind of shake out?
So we typically charge on a monthly basis,
Okay.
based upon kind of the size that they are asset-wise and their general construction activity. We don't really believe in transactional pricing.
Okay.
Occasionally it makes sense, but we believe that pricing that gives our clients room to move up or down without feeling like they have to watch a lot of widgets is important.
Sure. So did you guys kind of self-fund this, or did you kind of raise some money, or how did you kind of build version 1 of Bank Labs?
Right. So we bootstrapped it.
Okay.
There's a handful of us that fund the company. We take pride in that. The discipline to bootstrap is important. Now, the good news is our holding company, Radius Group, was formed in 2010,
Okay.
and it incubated us. In 2015, we started having Radius Group build what became the Construct product and what we launched formally Bank Labs with in January of 2016. So, we have the benefit of being a startup, and
Sure.
we're now, 22 months old. But we also have the benefit of the incubation period from our holding company. And so that's very helpful.
Yeah, no, sure. So you also have this Oreo product. So what exactly is that, and how is it similar or different than the construction loan automation product?
Right. So it's the same concept. It's cloud-based, mobile first, banker first, and it attacked a problem that we saw in the market. Oreo stands for other real estate owned or
Okay.
foreclosed asset. And so banks that foreclose on property, whether it be raw land, commercial or residential property, they really don't want to do that. They're not in the business of being landlords or real estate management companies. So they really don't like to do that. And most banks today manage that also on spreadsheets. So it's a very noisy spreadsheet-based process, a lot of paper. And so it meets one of the same sets of criteria of any of our cloud-based products, which are noisy spreadsheets, paper-based. We've got to take them to be, mobile, automated, electronic. So yeah, that's a good example. And yeah.
No, I think that's actually interesting. So did you guys basically, you're obviously leveraging the same product for kind of, or the same core for both products, but obviously it's a little bit different based on, the two spaces. Is that fair to say?
That is fair. We look for reuse, which is what I would call it, or
Sure.
scalability with quality in everything we do, whether that's product development or distribution, capital structures. So we do look for ways that, in this case, you're absolutely right. The product, we are able to get good reuse out of our SOC 2 data centers, our document management systems, our security systems, our, those types of things.
Sure. No, I think why I bring this up, because I think it's actually really important to kind of stress again, is being able to build something like a core, or for lack of a better term, that you could basically reuse in the same industry, but kind of in different verticals. And, obviously you could add a bunch of other kind of verticals in the future if you guys choose to, or not. It doesn't really matter, but you have this kind of solid core in a product that allows you to kind of move into other verticals within the same space, which I think is really good advice to people looking at actually building their own kind of startup, especially in the software space, with kind of a mobile first approach, right? Because obviously you started with one before you had the other, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I think you're right on. I think that anytime you can scale with quality, and that's based upon reusing something that's already established and has been successful in its own right, is helpful because it does reduce a lot of the things that can go wrong, or a lot of the things that you have to do. So just thinking about encrypted data and encrypted documents and login systems and document management systems, there's a lot of great work that goes into building that. If you do it well, it is reusable, so which is nice.
Sure. So you guys are obviously a pretty young startup, but you guys have had some pretty incredible success so far, and you're in multiple states. So do you want to kind of cover a little bit about how you guys kind of grew to multiple states, and kind of how you guys are seeing such quick success?
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised in a pleasant way the other day. We ran a report, and what I say, 21 months, I guess, almost 22 months we've been around, and we just passed the 50th bank in that time frame, which is awesome, and many states. So we're pretty excited about that. I would have thought you were, joking with me if you were telling me that we would be here where we are today. So great team. It's really we work hard. It's not easy. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of long hours, but we have really great, smart people on the team that are working tirelessly to make it happen. And we're pretty fired up about the future.
Sure. So how big roughly is the team, or does it kind of depend because you kind of have this development side?
So we're now at 17 folks.
Oh, wow. Full time?
Yes.
Okay. No, that's great. So I want to kind of transition into kind of a little bit of the fintech kind of banks working together space. We quickly kind of chatted about that before we started recording, and I'm always kind of curious to know, because I love companies like yours that kind of bring current and modern technology into an industry that's not really known for being technically advanced, like the banking industry. I don't mean that mean. I just think that that's just kind of the reality, right?
Yeah. No, we look for banks that need or want change. Number one. So certainly there are banks out there, community banks, credit unions, that do need or want change. And the trick is to figure out products that really can meet a need that's big enough in the market. So construction loan automation, for example, there's, about half of the banks in the U.S. Do construction lending. So it's a big enough space, and it's very spreadsheet based. Inspectors are going out in the field with typically with a clipboard and what's called a draw schedule piece of paper, updating as they're walking around the house or the commercial project what progress has been made on framing and electrical and plumbing and all that good stuff. And then they're taking photos and they're emailing those with attachments back to the loan admin at the bank, and they're taking the document and scanning it to the loan admin who's entering it into a spreadsheet. So we felt like, based upon the fact that I'm the only board member, by the way, that's not a banker.
Okay.
So we have really good product insight. We have really good product insight into banking.
Sure.
And so the product ideas typically start from Mike, my partner, who's just amazing at product development and design in banking. And so he's on the board of banks. We have others that are CEOs of banks and retired presidents of banks. And so they really provide us great ideas as to what scalable needs are out there. And then we look for those kind of early adopter banks, which is always the trick.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. And to me, I guess somebody that's I've been in tech for the last couple decades now, and I sometimes I forget how kind of non-technical some industries are, and it always kind of fascinates me because I just assume like I love playing with the latest stuff, and it's interesting to go kind of to these industries that haven't really adopted technology yet, right? And when you bring in something like what you guys are doing at Bank Labs, you are saving them an astronomical amount of time per person if you can just get rid of the some of the manual kind of repetitive tasks of just, you know, not having to scan in a document or attach it to email. Like there's a handful of things that you could just kind of automate with technology and using like a phone or tablet to just handle this stuff right as they're on the job site. Correct?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's, a lot of this stuff, as you know, being in the tech sector, is not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
It's, however, very difficult to build a really well done product. That's the hard part. How do you make it elegant? How do you make it simple? How do you make it where it's intuitive? How do you make it to where there's fewer steps versus more?
Yeah.
But the general idea of taking, an inspection process and using a mobile interface to do it, or moving documents electronically. I mean, this stuff is well established. There's some things we do, I think, that are really, really clever and or proprietary, and we're big fans of the deep thinking stuff. But I think really just developing a great product, you're competing with spreadsheets and really a lack of change.
Sure.
So you're right. There's a lot of lift, a lot of savings, a lot of risk mitigation, a lot of cycle time improvement. And in banking, like construction lending, the banks make money. They make interest when a draw request or a request from a borrower or builder is made. So the faster they can facilitate that request happening, which involves visibility, sending text messages when things happen to create that visibility, and making it so much easier and faster to happen, then it really improves the profit greatly.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious then, and maybe I just kind of want your advice on some things, is you're working in an industry that has quite a bit of kind of laws and regulations around that. How do you guys kind of work through some of that regulation stuff? Or is it a little bit more bank specific, or is it kind of state specific, or is it kind of national, or is it kind of similar no matter where you go kind of internationally?
Yeah, so it's product specific to a certain degree, then it's just industry specific to another degree. So you have non-public and personal information, or NPPI, you have Gramm-Leach-Bliley, you have all the Dodd-Frank regulatory environments. Those are the same really.
Okay.
Across products, or very similar at least. And then you have product specific stuff that can change from state to state. So in construction, you have title laws that vary sometimes by state. You have the difference between OCC, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, which is a federal regulator. You have FDIC, which also federal. You have state examiners. They look for similar things, but they have a different bent because they're a state-specific examiner. So they all play their part. I think the intent is all good on their part for sure, which is to provide a healthy, safe banking environment. And our job is to make it administratively easy. Try to get the best of both worlds.
Okay, so you guys maybe have to modify a form or something here and there to accommodate kind of somewhere in a different state than, I don't know, maybe like California compared to like, I don't know, New Mexico or something. That's maybe a bad example, but is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely. So you're right. So examples are and I'll just keep coming back to construction, even though we have other products, but
sure.
In construction lending, you have community property states. I believe there's 7 in the U.S. still.
Okay.
And so you have to have the husband and wife do things individually.
Oh,
so that's an example of a state-specific policy. You have to have certain borrower acknowledgments in different states. So yeah, there are some differences. And then you have regional differences around the U.S. and those involve how those states have kind of grown to do lending of certain types over the years. And some involve what are called disbursement companies. And those are organizations hired by the bank to do certain things. And that's different than banks that do their own stuff internally and how they interact from an internal perspective. So there's no right or wrong. It's just different ways of handling it. But no, you're absolutely right. There's differences you have to keep an eye on all around the country.
Okay. So you also have this marketplace, and what is the kind of the marketplace around this whole thing?
So the marketplace, let's go to Oreo, I guess, would be,
Sure.
may I jump to Oreo a little bit? Okay, so Oreo, other real estate owned, we have roughly a kind of a 3-point theory on life when we look at our product.
Okay.
And we try to apply that theory consistently, but we only do it where it makes sense. So the 3 points are mobile, marketplace, and the financial transaction. So piece one, we want to provide mobile technology to automate these spreadsheet-based processes. So Oreo, other real estate owned, historically is managed via spreadsheets and paper files, and it's very cumbersome, and it creates a lack of transparency to the process, which can create challenging decision-making by the bank when they're trying to figure out whether to take an offer to buy that asset off the balance sheet. And so we want to increase that visibility with and cycle time improvement and admin efficiency with that mobile approach. Part two is the marketplace, as you mentioned. Marketplaces really are meant in our world to take something the bank wants to do better and or does well and take it outside their local market.
Okay.
And so the marketplace in this case is a pretty clean one. You've got stuff on the bank's balance sheets that they want to get rid of at a reasonable offer. And so the more exposure that we can provide those banks to investors, buyers outside their local market, anywhere around the country, then that's a good thing because it creates more visibility to buy side. And then part three is where we feel like we can see opportunity and provide value to the bank in terms of liquidity, we'll actually invest in that Oreo ourselves. So we'll acquire those certain properties off the bank's balance sheets and get those, help the bank. And we then make those profitable investments on our side.
Interesting. Okay.
So mobile, marketplace, and the financial transactions. So we apply that where we can, that 3-point theory.
No, I think that's really great. And I love how you guys are you have this like incubator that kind of funds obviously like Bank Labs, and it sounds like you're obviously doing kind of other things under that umbrella, and then you're using your technology to potentially kind of make your clients' stuff, go nationally or beyond. I'm assuming that if somebody from another country sees a property that's on your system and says like, I want to buy that, or invest in that or whatever, you guys can work with them to do that. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if we've ever had a foreign. I'll have to check with the team. I think all of the transactions that have occurred via the marketplace have been in the U.S., but actually I don't know the answer to that. Okay. There could have been some that.
Well, but sure.
The only thing there is we would just need to follow all regulatory guidelines on real estate transactions and all that good stuff. But great question. I'm going to have to ask the team.
Sure, and I think like what I'm getting at though is just like you basically are leveraging your current technology kind of to help other people as well, and then you guys could potentially invest in something as well. So it's kind of this just like full circle kind of thing, right? Where you're kind of the software is kind of the middle of it, but you have kind of all these branches that kind of help and build this kind of national community around this thing that you could potentially just stay in North America or the States or maybe go global at some point if you wanted to, like depending on, money coming in from other countries. And I guess why I think it's fascinating to me is just, I always watch that like $1 Million Listing show, and you just see all that money coming in from, some guy in a different country or family from a different country.
Oh, yeah.
Just like buys this crazy mansion in the Hollywood Hills or something. And you're like, but just being able to have that, right? Because that stuff's just kind of fascinating to me. And with the internet, how it just basically connects everybody globally, and it's the geographical region barrier is kind of gone, right? I get you have to follow kind of the legal and kind of the process of the state you're buying property in, but I love how you can basically be in another part of the world and buy property kind of down the street from the person you're talking to, but you're in a completely different country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is we do have, I can't go into too many details maybe on a future show, but we
Sure.
have some stuff cooking, and at its core, it is absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's scalable internationally. If you look at the three approach, really automation, that visibility, and that liquidity. And so automation, visibility, and liquidity are fairly scalable terms, as long as you can do them well with quality, certainly scalable outside the U.S.
Sure. No, I think that's really great. But Matt, we're coming to the end of the show, so maybe let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys and any other social media links you want to mention.
Sure. So email in no specific order, but my email is matt.johnner, JOHNNER @banklabs.com. matt.johnner@banklabs.com. You can call my mobile at 214-208-0436. And website, banklabs.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Perfect, Matt. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Twitter handle I forgot to mention
sure,
is
go ahead.
at the Bank Labs. At the Bank Labs.
Perfect, man. Well, thanks again for doing this. We'll talk soon.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep them for the future.